Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Mr. Rishi, and today we're going to be going over part 2 of my team building guide, inspired by Rig's document. Now, today we're going to be going over using the damage calculator, which will be linked in the description, Temtems, and choosing your team's TVs. So, looking at the 4 Tem slots at the bottom. These 4 Tem slots, you can input Temtems, you can customize the Temtem within those slots, and this is pretty much where we are going to be looking at each of our Temtem stats, how much damage they are going to be doing with the techniques that we put in, etc. Now, in order to choose a Tem, all you have to do is click on one of these boxes and type in the Tem you want. In this video, we're going to be looking at Turok on the left and Garunder on the right. We'll be inputting Tactical Strike for the trait of Turok, Fake Beard for the item, and Feather Gatling for technique, which is going to be targeting Garunder. So now, if we look at the middle, we can see Effective Speed, which shows the speed at which the Tems will be moving at, which includes priority and speed boosts or speed debuffs for all Tems in which you have clicked a technique on. We can also see the technique used by each Tem, the stamina used, if it has stab, the target, the type effectiveness, damage dealt, and the percentage damage dealt to the target. And on top of that, it also shows the turns to KO for that technique selected, and the stamina regen at the end of turn, along with any extra damage taken at the end of the turn. Now, for Turok's opponent, Garunder, we will be choosing the Thick Skin trait, which decreases wind technique damage by 50%. We will also be adding 500 HP TVs to Garunder, but we'll decrease it to 499, as the stat of HP that you get from 499 TVs is the same as 500, but for less TVs. Now, if we change Turok's technique to Stoneball and add 500 attack TVs, along with utilizing the additional modifiers drop down, we can select Ally's War Drum and see how much damage that this Stoneball from Turok does to the Garunder. Now, let's pretend that the Garunder got a Stonewall. We will give this Garunder plus 3 defense and plus 1 special defense using these bars down at the bottom. You can see that the damage on the damage calculator changes accordingly. Also, keep in mind that Fake Beard doesn't automatically give you Vigorized on the damage calc. So, if we add the status condition of it Vigorized to the Turok, we can see that the stamina used by the Turok for a Stoneball goes down significantly. Now, let's add 500 attack TVs to Garunder, and change the move that it's using to Piezo Electric Blow. We will now change Garunder's ally to Ukama, give it the Hydrologist trait, and 500 special attack TVs, with Water Cannon attacking the Turok. We'll click the Synergy button as we want to make sure that the poison clicks get added, and as you can see, Turok will indeed get knocked out. We will now give Turok 500 HP TVs. As you can see, the percent damage has gone down significantly. Now, because of Turok's low SPDF, or special defense, and very high base HP, we can actually split the bulk to 400 HP TVs and 100 special defense TVs. Now, although this increases Turok's overall bulk for special and physical hits, it lowers its bulk for only physical hits, as the special defense does not factor in to the calculation when you get hit with physical hits. Now, this can be discussed in more specifics. This is just a small tip, as some Tems can have their overall bulk increased by taking out HP and putting it into defense or special defense. That will not be covered in any more depth in this video, it's just a little tip. Now, with the basics done out of the way, we will be talking about how to actually be building a TV spread for Temtems. The first place that you are going to want to start is the Samina. We will be figuring out move rotation and breakpoints in this next step. The move rotation is the order of moves you expect to click with a Tem. When thinking about your move rotation, you need to consider how long the Tem will survive and how many attacks it usually takes to kill common targets. For example, if we go back to Turok, you can go Feather Gatling into either Stoneball or Rockfall. These moves can be done in any order when you figure out how much stamina it takes to do these 3 moves. So, I will briefly now go over stamina breakpoints. You have breakpoint at 41, in which you gain 4 stamina per turn. If you have at least 61 stamina, you'll gain 5 stamina per turn. and if you have at least 81, you'll gain 6 stamina per turn. If you want to know more about stamina breakpoints, check out my other video that will be linked in the description also. So, if we regen 4 stamina at 54 total stam on Turok, that means that in order to calculate how much stamina we need in order to do Feather Gatling, Rockfall, we would first take 25 and subtract 4 from it, as we regen 4 stamina per turn, and Feather Gatling costs 25 stamina. Then add 25 to calculate the stamina needed for the second Feather Gatling. Then at the end of turn, we regen 4, so subtract another 4. Then we add 28 to that number in order to get 70. So we need 70 total stam at a 4 stamina per turn regen number. Now, this would obviously bring us above 61, which means that we would be going past the 5 stamina breakpoint. So let's recalculate the stamina for 5 stamina regen per turn instead of 4. If you do that, you realize that you need 68 total stamina, which means you must invest 88 TVs into Turok if you want to do Feather Gatling into Rockfall. Now, you may not want to invest 88 TVs or however many TVs you end up investing for a 3-move rotation. And if you want to invest less, or you want to get more out of your investment, you can instead use stamina items such as Fake Beard or Sweatband. Now that you know all about stamina, we will now talk about planning for specific scenarios. This is a reminder that Temtem is a 2v2, and that calcing for 1v1s aren't always realistic. For example, let's give Mushuk as an ally to Turok. We use an example spread of 489 HP, 314 attack with War Drum on the Mushuk. Now, we will set the Mushuk to perfect jab the Gurinder and Turok to follow it up with Stone Ball. We will calculate to knock out the Gurinder with this combination, and we will now click perform next turn. We see that Gurinder dies while Turok lives the double from Ukama and Gurinder. Now, while 2v2 is something you need to consider, not all of the decisions made in this example are worth the TV investment. Stoneball won't always be preceded by Perfect Jab, although it is very useful to make sure that Stoneball kills when a Perfect Jab is used before it. And Ukama hits very hard, and it might not always be worth speccing to live something like an Aquatic Whirlwind from it. It may just be better to swap out, although it can help you in a pinch if you do end up speccing for it. Knowing what to calculate against is something that is learned over time and often depends on the meta. Try your best to not overcalculate as a beginner. In order to prevent overcalculating, especially around non-effective or super effective hits, you can try to use a benchmark. Tattoo can be used as a general damage test because it has the same defense and special defense. Again, knowing how much damage you want your Temps to do will be learned over time. A good starting point is to 2-hit KO a 0 HP Tattoo with Temps that are using full investment in attack, and 3-hit KO it with more bulkier attackers. Now, if you only plan on using very bulky Temtem, you might as well be done with your TV spreads, or at least have all the knowledge needed to make your TV spreads. Although, if you plan on working with a bit more frail of Temtem, you're probably gonna need to consider speed. In this next section, we'll be going over figuring out speed tiers and the decision making needed in order to figure out what speed you want to run your Temps at. Linked down below, you will find the speed tier spreadsheet. Now, if this speed tier spreadsheet is not up to date for the current patch, you may be able to find one in #competitive_questions in the official Temtem Discord server. Although, looking at the speed tier spreadsheet can be a very useful tool in your arsenal when making a team. To look at some of the speed tiers, currently a 0 speed Gyalis is 230 speed. To outspeed a Gyalis' 2 priority move, like Hook Kick, you would need 154 speed using a 3 priority move like Aquatic Whirlwind. As stated earlier, you can look at the effective speed in the damage calculator in order to see what speed your Temtem will be moving at, whether it's using a 1, 3, 4, or any priority move. Understanding speed tiers requires knowing which moves have priority and are commonly used, and which Tems get those moves. Now, let's take Banshee for example, who has a 3 priority move in Tornado. Let's invest 500 speed TVs into it. Looking at the number that you get as a result, Banshee can outspeed anything that falls below that number unless it is using a 4 priority move or has speed buffs, assuming that the Banshee is using Tornado. Now, just because it can outspeed a lot doesn't mean you should go max speed, because just because you can outspeed it doesn't mean you should invest to outspeed it. A small rule that you can use to try to see if you want a Tem such as Banshee to outspeed a certain target is to ask yourself, does Banshee kill this target efficiently? Does Banshee die to this target? Or even, is my team weak to this target? Although, keep in mind that understanding what is worth to outspeed and what is not is something that will be developed over time. Also, things can run speed to outspeed their teammates. As the example showed earlier, Perfect Jab wanted to go before Stone Ball between the Mushuk and Turok to take advantage of the defense drop. Other buffs and debuffs like Sparks or Purgation might want to happen before your ally makes a move. Taking this into consideration and staggering speeds would help prevent debuffs or buffs from not being useful until the next turn. And that's all for part 2. In the next video, we'll be moving on to part 3 of this team building guide, in which we will ask ourselves, how do we know if our team is good? Make sure to stick around for that one, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.